What is going on, everybody? This is Dylan with Dylan Talks Tone, and this is your weekly gear news update. This is where we go through all the stories that we've seen in over the last week or so, the last 7 days, since the last Wednesday morning when I shot this. Pretty cool stuff. There's tons this week. So after you hit the subscribe button and the like button, I'll wait. Let's get straight into this. First, this is a little weird. I was almost going to leave it out, but I think it's relevant. Fender has just launched a line of wedding rings made out of the same materials that their guitars are made out of. So strings and woods and stuff like that. They're between like $500 and $900 or something, which actually for a wedding ring isn't really that much. So kind of cool. The only reason I bring it up is because when they do weird stuff like this, it just makes you wonder about the focus of the company. But merch is really important. So, like, go buy my shirts. I'm wearing a Lucky Dog Guitars hat from Tennessee. I mean, it matters. So I think it's kind of cool. And if you're a Fender faithful, you might be into it. Vox is reviving their teardrop guitar. Like, didn't the Beatles use these? Really, really cool. These are smaller, shorter scale. I think if I got the millimeter conversion right, they're like 18 3/4 inch-ish, something right in there scale. So they're kind of small, and they only have 2 pickups instead of 3. And they're some sort of proprietary. They're not like a single coil Strat kind of drop-in. They're some sort of weird pickup that they use for these things, but they're very cool. They come in a couple different colors. If this is your thing, this is your thing, and if it's not, you probably don't care. Martin has released or announced, it looks like they're adding a bunch of guitars to their, what do they call these things? The Modern Deluxe series. What this is this is basically kind of an updated version, but they're adding some of their older models. So like, your D28, your D42, your D45, your 0028. There's a whole bunch of these guitars. Actually, the D28 was already there. I played a D28. That's what I was about to get into. These are kind of an updated version of their normal guitars. And what they've done is taken some technology and sort of put them into their classic designs. So a couple of the highlights, there's a bunch of little things, but a couple of the highlights are like an asymmetrical neck profile. I played one of my buddies has one of the D28s, and it is a little interesting. Like, you first play it and you're like, oh wow, that's totally different, but it's really nice. It feels really good. So it's like an asymmetrical neck profile. The other thing they do is they put carbon fiber underneath the bridge. And I think they use a different bridge material. Maybe the bridge pins are a little bit different. One of the other big things they do is they have a process to torify the top woods, to basically artificially age them, to make them feel and sound and look like an old guitar. So I think this is really neat and a way to take a really classic design that you really don't want to mess with too much, but make it more modern, which is very cool. Kemper has launched a new cabinet. They've taken the neodymium magnet speaker from the power cab and put it into basically what appears to be like a passive cab that can hold about 200 watts. Basically, the way you would use this is you would use it with your powered Kemper and then turn the powered cab off, simulator thing off on the Kemper, and then use this passive cabinet, which is different from the power cabinet. So there's a couple of different ones. If you're a Kemper person, you'll know what that means. It's lighter and it's easier to carry around, 23 pounds, I think, something like that. So if that's something you're into, you'll dig this, or the power cabinet. Just kind of depends which Kemper you have and also how you're going to use it. Boss has released an update to the GT1000, which is their floor pedal board modeler digital thing, and it's really, really cool. They put a bunch of delays in it. Of course, they're all the classic Boss delays. I think there's 5 new ones. There's some IR, some impulse response updates, and then one of the other kind of big updates is you can now take one of their expression pedals and connect it to the modeler via Bluetooth, which is interesting. So being able to control various parameters, it's MIDI control, and be able to control various parameters in that with a wireless expression pedal. That's pretty cool. That's like next level 2022 stuff. Takamine has been around for 60 years. And as a result, they have released a special edition. I don't know how many they're making of these things, but they're the LTD 2022 because it's 2022 and it's a limited edition. I think it's a Koa back and sides with a spruce top. Really pretty stuff. If you're a Takamine person, look deeper into this. I don't know how many there are or how expensive this thing is. They did not put either of those pieces of information in the article that I found. They might already be pre-sold. You know how these things go. But if you're into really pretty wood, this is a guitar for you, especially if you're a Takamine person. This is funny. There's a few of these things on the news today that are really nichey. Like if you're into it, you're into it. And if you've never heard of it before, you may not even care. You know, it's kind of interesting. Some of the brands that we're talking about today are kind of like this. Let's keep going because there's probably more. Oh yeah, Harley Benton has a new guitar. It's black, has active pickups in it. It's under 150 bucks. Next. Fender is updating their Paramount acoustic series. So these are like right around what the $800 range-ish, something in there depending on the model. Some new finishes and a couple of new models that are interesting that are getting added to this. There's a couple different ones that we'll talk about. The Dreadnought, the Orchestra, the Parlor, which I find very cool. Parlor guitars are always cool to have around in the living room just to play. They're fun. And then a resonator and a banjo, which is kind of cool. So yeah, Fender acoustics, relatively affordable and really cool. Really nice finishes, really nicely appointed. I'll try to leave a link to as much of this stuff as I can find normally. I do that and put it in the description below. Some of this stuff might not be out yet, so I might not be able to have links to it, but I'll do the best I can. The Phil Jones X4 Nano Bass Cabinet. This is an interesting one because it's only this big, like 6 inches, 100 millimeters by 100 millimeters. So very, very small, very small. But you'll be able to plug a guitar, a bass, or a keyboard into this thing. And they said they worked a lot on the speaker technology to make this thing sound proper, even though it's tiny, which I am very skeptical about. But this thing's like 550 bucks, which means they think it's worth it. And it probably is. I don't know, you know, Bose makes tiny little speakers and they sound amazing. So maybe there is some technology in there that I have not realized or seen. This is very, very interesting because this practice stuff, and we've got some more later in the news too, is pretty hot, man. Like anything that you can use to practice and a little quieter and compact and take with you, it's like a hot product right now. If you are in the gear industry and you have not figured out some way to make some practicey thing, you're probably missing out because they're gonna sell them. They're gonna sell all of them, I'm pretty sure. Charvel's teaming up with Sean Long, Jake E. Lee, and of course Satchel, and coming out with a bunch of new impressively appointed new guitars. They're changing up some colorways. They're changing up some, you know, colorways because color, you know. Anyway, they're changing up a bunch of stuff. There's a lot of bold new graphics in today's news. This is probably part of it. This is the start of it. New colors, new combinations, hardware combinations. If you are a Charvel person, go and look. Because there might be a new color that tickles your fancy. And if you're not a Charvel person because you're like, I don't like this stuff, you might want to go check it out because there's some new colors might draw you in. It's kind of what happened to me with the PRS stuff, and it was worth it. Speaking of that, Jackson is coming out with an updated line of soloists and Rhodeses. I think that's what they're using. Yep. And basically, they're taking all of their, I feel like it's fancier hardware, so like Hipshot stuff, real Floyd Rose stuff, not import stuff, and putting it on these guitars that are going to be right around $2,000. So they're not custom shop guitars, but they're taking some of that high-end hardware and putting it on a guitar that is, we could say, relatively more affordable than their custom shop stuff. Gretsch, bunch of new guitars. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not a massive Gretsch nerd. I don't know everything there is to know about them, except I know that there's tons of them. They all kind of look the same. They have a bunch of different options. They do have a new set of Filtertrons out. They do have an interesting new bracing scheme that's supposed to make the top feel and sound a little more snappy. So that's an interesting thing. I'd be interested to know what they changed and how they did that. They got a new Filtertron. They didn't say any specs about it or anything though, so I can't give you like a pickup winder's insight to that because I have no idea. They didn't really talk about that. And then of course a bunch of new colors and combinations of hardware and stuff. Gretsch is another one. They do this all the time. Tons of colors. You just kind of have to go look for yourself because it's hard to keep it all straight. And the same thing with Jackson with their X series. So their Soloist, Dinky, Warrior, Kelly, and Rhodes, and the X series. We talked about the custom shop stuff earlier. Same thing, bunch of new colors and combinations and things that you need to go look at. It's this time of year. There's going to be some stuff in the news, and you might be like, why aren't you getting in specific about all this? Because this is why I'm watching it right now. Yes, you're right, but we wouldn't have time because each of these guys have like 8 guitars, 10 guitars, and to get into it all would be absolutely insane. And on to the next one, Charvel. Same exact deal. Bunch of new colors, combinations, and woods. So they're using like a burled poplar over alder. They're doing a couple of different things like this to where it gives you some new looks, some new colors, same thing. Charvel Pro-Mods though. I almost bought a Pro-Mod a couple of months ago and it kind of makes me want to buy one because I don't have a Floyd Rose guitar because I just sold the Schecter a few weeks ago. So, maybe. Okay, remember a year ago, I think it was about a year ago, Billy Gibbons and Wild Custom Guitars came out with that wacky looking, Billy Gibbons-ish of course, because it's wacky looking, guitar with the pickup that flipped around, or it had like the cartridges or whatever in it to where it would, and it was like almost $10,000. Well, now they came out with their Squire version. I don't know. Apparently it's cheaper. Apparently it's exactly the same just about, but it's cheaper. So I don't know what they changed. But when we say cheaper, we mean this in a relative sense because now it's only like $6,000 and something dollars. It's like $3,000 less than the original one. Still a lot of money. Not cheap enough for me to buy one yet, but if you really want a wacky guitar with Billy Gibbons' name on it and some wacky flippy around pickups, there's nothing else to buy. You have to get this. Okay. Gibson Custom Shop. Mike Ness. Social D. If you're a Social D fan, Social Distortion, you can't help but love this guitar. It is a early gold top deluxe. Of course, yeah, those had mini humbuckers in them. These have been taken out by Mike Ness and put in P90s, and so now they made the Mike Ness Custom Shop. Of course, it's been aged by the Gibson Custom Shop, the Murphy Lab there. It looks fantastic. It's got the green around the edges. It's got all the things that you want on a gold top. 2 P90s, really, really sick looking guitar. Almost $10,000. Earlier in the news, we talked about practice stuff and how it's gaining steam and people are really digging it. The Roadie Coach. After last week's news, I got like probably a dozen messages over social media saying, did you see this? Did you see this? You missed this and you missed the story we're about to talk about. But this thing was very, very interesting. You clip it on your acoustic guitar and it's got an app and it's a practice thing. Backing tracks, learning, tuner, a little multi-track recorder built in. Very cool. Right around $200. I think this is one of those things where it is marketed to new players and people that need a particular way they practice. And I really applaud products like this because it's just getting more people playing guitar. I love things like this. Okay, this is going to be the second most controversial story of the week. That's why we left it for the last. It's also the one I got more messages about because people thought I missed it. I didn't miss it. I just didn't see it in time to put it in this. Fender has released they're made in Japan, and they're sort of a reissue of the earlier Japanese stuff. So you got a couple of Strats and a couple of Tellys. They're basswood. which Fender never does. They're V-shaped necks, which Fender does very rarely on some stuff. So this is an interesting combination. These guitars are going to be like between $1,200 and $1,400 depending on which one you get, how it's appointed. There's a single hum Strat that's a little, it's like $1,349 or something. But they're right in that ballpark. I personally think that these guitars are going to be worth it. There's going to be a bunch of you that are going to get in the comments and be like, basswood is cheap. It's not. I'm going to do a video pretty soon about that. I think people get way too worked up on this. If you play this guitar and you like it, just buy it. And for the most controversial story of the week, I'm going to tell you that I'm always looking for an update, an improvement, an evolution of a guitar. Obviously for me, the Strat evolution is the Silver Sky. If you've followed the channel at all, you know that my favorite guitar of all time and my dream guitar would be like a 59 Les Paul Jr. or a 59 Les Paul Special. I actually built myself a copy of a Les Paul Special and had it for a few years and I really loved it. Texas Toast Guitars it's called Texas Toast Guitars, but they're out of Colorado. They're in Denver. Have just released their Challenger. So it's a little different shape, but it's called a Challenger. They've had this model for a while, but it's called their Challenger Special. And it is TV yellow, and it has two P90s in it, and it is mahogany, but I think this thing is going to completely trounce a Gibson for a couple of different reasons. First of all, it's 3 pieces of wood. So it doesn't have, like that Junior right there has a two-piece body. This is a single piece of mahogany body with a single piece mahogany neck with no scarf joint. And they've got the peg head angle properly. If you ever follow Texas Toast Guitars on YouTube, Matt will go off about this forever, about the angle of the peg head and how it's supposed to be and everything. I think it's a Bloodwood or something fretboard. I can't remember what it is. I'll tell you why I don't care in a minute. Very cool. This guitar is very cool. So it's got a bound neck. I think it's a 12-inch radius fretboard. I'll get more on the specifics later this week because they're sending me the prototype to do a review on. Now I don't get to keep it. It's actually sold to another customer. And now the cool part of this is that this evolution to me of my favorite guitar in TV yellow is coming here. And not only is it coming here, they want me to put my pickups in it. So I actually have on the bench right here a set of my P90s that are going to go in that guitar. And all of the guitars that they are selling, my P90s are going to go in. So I think this is like a limited run that they are doing. And by the end of February, I think if you buy a guitar by the end of the month, you can save like $500. There's a video on his channel. I'll leave a link to all the stuff below. I'm really excited. I've played their Challengers before, but I've not played this guitar, obviously, because I'm going to get to play the prototype, which is really cool. We're going to shoot a video on it. I'm really excited about it. The evolution, to me, of already my favorite guitar. I'm super stoked. I'll leave a link to it. I'll leave a link to where you can buy it. And it's going to have my pickups in it, which is really, really cool. And so I don't know all the specifics on all of the little measurements and the nut and all that kind of stuff. We'll get that from Texas Toast before we shoot the review, and I will make sure to include all of that at that time. Do me a favor also, and make sure, if you have not already, to hit the subscribe button and the like button, and do me a favor and comment below. I don't care if you just like comment for the algorithm. Man, it really helps. You have no idea. Some of these videos that have been doing really well lately, are because you are chatting about it in the comments, and I really, really appreciate that a lot. Even some of you haters, man, I'm gonna say, no big deal. We're all cool. We like guitar stuff. And check out our live stream Thursday night at 8 p.m. as well as a really cool video that I got coming for you next Monday. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you soon.